Hello and a good afternoon to all the attendees, and thanks for enrolling for the webinar. I thank Pinkesh for giving me this opportunity to talk about gamification and how we can use it in product management. So I really hope that I add some value to whatever your time you're spending with me. So the structure of the webinar would be like 45 minutes of presentation, and then I can take 15 minutes of Q&A. After that, if you have any questions, you can just write to me on rishikeshkunte@gmail.com. I've kept my email at the bottom of the slide. And my primary focus of the webinar is to shed some light on what is gamification, and for those who are probably unaware or want to know more about the topic, and how should a product manager approach this topic of gamification. So just a warning, statutory warning, like I'm not a gamification guru, and I would really appreciate to hear whatever your views and make it more engaging. So just to start with, without wasting more time, what exactly is gamification? I mean, a lot of people are talking about this term. It's been around for almost 2 years, 2 to 3 years now, and it's been like a buzzword in the industry, and everybody wants to gamify their product and services. So what exactly is it? I mean, for some it's a buzzword, for some it's new term, a fad, a magic wand which adds fun to whatever you're doing, or it's for some it's basically creating games. So they don't differentiate between games and gamifications. But there have been people, I mean, there have been companies who are running gamification services and products as their sole business proposition. And on the other hand, there are universities who have been, conducting courses on gamification. So the question worth asking here can be, is it really that big, and is it even worth understanding and investing your time and effort into knowing this term and the topic? So my take on it is basically gamification is not a fad. It's been around for quite a while in the form of loyalty points on credit cards and frequent flying miles. And if you remember that good old like photo studio days when we used to go to the photo studio, I think they do it right now also. They give you a small card on which they have numbers, and every odd number or even number has some prize and gifts like a photo frame and a hoodie or something. So it's form of gamification wherein they want the users to come back to their studio, get a photograph and start winning. So it's kind of a carrot for the users. And so it's been around for a while, and there have been people who are doing quite a bit of research and trying to understand what exactly is this and how it can be applied in various scenarios and industries. So they have come up with this scientific definition, which they call it as gamification is the use of game thinking and game mechanics in non-game context to engage users and solve problems. So my basic problem is, I mean, I have a problem in this definition, because the promoters of the term have been focusing more on game thinking and game mechanics and engaging users. I mean, it's okay to highlight the points, but actually designing a game is not that easy. I mean, it's a very big task, because you need to engage the users and get their attraction hooked onto you and ask them to engage with you and come back again. And they have been, I mean, according to me, they have been missing the most important crux of the definition, which is basically solve problems. So if you ask me personally, I would say that you should apply gamification only when you have a problem and you think that this problem can be solved by gamification. Because in general, if you start applying gamification elements, which basically are game design elements, and like they fall into points, badges, leaderboards, which you must have already heard. It's basically it's like a superficial layer which sits on top of the product, and it's not a guaranteed like a shot at making the product success. So if you find the problem that exists in your product or service or organization, then you should think of gamifying, and then if you think that this process or the problem can be solved, then only go for gamification. Otherwise, applying lamely, it doesn't really make any sense. So just moving on, what basically the promoters are doing here, they are trying to promote the game design element. So the game has two parts. One is the core game, that is the story which takes you on a journey, and then there is this elements which are like points, badges, levels, and goodies here and there. So they are trying to promote and tell that these goodies and points and badges can help a user or a product get engaged with the product, and that can increase the traction and ask the user to come back and start engaging. So one element is game mechanics, which is basically driving, measuring, and rewarding high value buyers. That mainly is like points which you say in a Subway Surfer you are just running, right? It's activity. I mean, your running it's one of the main parts in the game, and it's very core. So giving you point for that makes more sense, because then if you get those points, then they have this store wherein you can go and say buy out the challenges that you have if you think that those are difficult, or then gain more points and get more avatars and change your avatars and so on and so forth. And levels are, again, it's a form of feedback wherein they tell you that you're progressing in the game, and you're reaching the goal, say, slow and steady. Second point that they're trying to make here is the reputation mechanics. So I mean, if you look at it psychologically or from the birth of the humans, human beings have always been social animals. I mean, they like to talk to people. They like to be in groups. They like to show off what they have achieved, like a swanky Merc or a BMW, and so on and so forth. So if you have that position, say, on leaderboard wherein you are topping the chart, it makes you feel good. So they're saying that if you create some kind of a game mechanism in your product or a game, it will basically attract the users, and if they see them on the top of a leaderboard, they'll try to engage more and be on the top of the leaderboard, which makes sense. Second is the badges, which is, again, I mean, the greatest example is, I mean, I'm sure that many of you have been in the Scout and Guide in the school days. So we used to get those badges, right? It was kind of an achievement. We used to feel good for it. So it's kind of a motivator for the people to keep on doing well in whatever they're doing. And the third element is basically social mechanics, which is more about feedback and challenges. Because if you are in a social environment and if you are given some, say, a competition or a game, you start engaging more and try to beat other people. And then you try to, I mean, there is a conversation around it, how you won and how they lost and so on and so forth. So this is what they're trying to exactly, I mean, work on, and trying to highlight that these are the elements which can be a game changer for whatever you're doing. It can be a product, service, or enterprise, or HR, or like medicine, and lots of other things. But so that can, I mean, the second part for it is this leads to SAPS. So SAPS is basically a coin term by one of the gamification experts named Gabe Zuckerman. So he's been saying that it's the status, access, power, and stuff. That's what the SAPS stands for. And he's saying that it's a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation is basically what excites you from inside, and extrinsic is external things like points and stuffs, gifts, or whatever you get. It basically satisfies your external needs. So if you get say a cool Ferrari T-shirt, if you won some game or something, it's like more of a extrinsic motivator to get that shirt. Or whereas intrinsic motivation is basically you get into the game and really like the game and be in that zone of playing it again and again. So there are two things to this, which basically leads us to getting started with gamification. So what they say is it's very easy. It's like a 4-step process wherein you provide rewards for the best of the activities that you have in your product or service. Try to implement a progress bar wherein you start giving the user feedback on what he's doing. Third is use virtual currency, which makes people come back. So it's like virtual currencies in many games have been used to buy stuff. So just like Subway Surfer, when you get points, it's like a virtual currency wherein you can buy out different avatars and different challenges. And fourth one is like pit players against each other. So it's again a social element wherein people try to compete against each other, and then it becomes a talking point. So we can call it as a social object wherein people start talking. Social object is basically again a thing which you can, I mean, anything that you can start a conversation on. It can be a pen, it can be a shirt, or it can even be just a topic on politics. So politics can become a social object. So that's what they're saying is it becomes a social element and people start talking and then they come back and start engaging. The core element of game, what according to them is basically engagement and motivation. So when they're trying to talk about engagement, they are only stuck to the gamification, that is the game design elements. I find a problem there because I mean when gamification is just restricted to the game design elements, it according to me it becomes a problem because the engagement is not only extrinsic, it has to be a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic. So for example, if you're trying to apply these elements to a product, if the product is not good at its core, no matter what level of gamification and elements you apply on it, it's not going to become a hit because there's no intrinsic value for the product for the user to come back again. So according to me, the engagement here is more or less like what you see in this picture. So if you can see that the picture at the top where I've written play and the picture which says games. So there is a fundamental difference in these two pictures. Though you may find it that it's kind of a graphic representation of the first picture. But if you really look into it, in a game, there are again, a game has two types of game plays. Basically, one is free play, one is structured play. So if you look into the first picture, wherein the kids are in a shopping mall and they're trying to play on the flooring there, they've made their own rules. They can change it whenever they want. They can, I mean, the white portion can be the land and the red portion can be the water or like a pothole or something. And then, I mean, it can have multiple options. It's up to you. It's kind of a free play wherein you decide the rules. You can modify it as and when you want. Whereas in the second game, it's more of a structured. So if you look at the picture closely, you can see a dragon and then there is a fire in between. So ideally, if you think logically, the thing is that the players in this game, if they fall into the fire, they die or they lose out on points, and probably a dragon eats them or something else, right? So it's more of a structured play wherein you cannot do anything else except what the game wants you to do. So gamification basically falls into this category, which is more of a structured game, because products are more like a structure or I mean, you don't want people to make a free play out of it, right? So it cannot have multiple ways of doing things. So basically, if you look into this, simply put, if you divide gamification, according to me, it can be obviously gamey is from games and fication is application of games. So if you think of games is more of engagement, incentives. It is a social collaboration wherein if you, I mean, it can be a single player game or it can be a multiple player game, and it can be a collaboration. So it can be a video game or it can be a physical game wherein you are playing a badminton or something. Fourth point is breaking monotony. So a game keeps you on a roller coaster ride. So it never becomes like a monotonous plateau wherein you get bored. So most of the good games obviously are breaking the monotony. Fifth is the competition. So again, it can be self wherein you want to get best out of yourself, and the second is you want to beat others. And last one is constant feedback and results. This is very important because a lot of games keep you hooked onto it because they are giving you feedbacks and results. They show your progress where you are in the game, and then they keep on giving you the feedback of how you're progressing, and that's what actually motivates people. So in this, engagement is basically not gamification. That's what my take is. It is more of the core storyline, you can say. So if you can consider game as a story, which obviously it is. I mean, if you are even say playing an NFS game, it obviously has a story wherein you have to travel through the mountains and the different racetracks and reach the final goal. So it has a story along it, and if you say consider a simple story, say a film story, it starts and then over the period till the time it ends, it has a roller coaster ride. So it takes you on highs and lows, and just before the intermission there is like a suspense created, and then there is a high, and then suddenly the movie falls and ends. So basically what is happening here is, if you consider, I mean, game as stories, even products are stories, because games are products. I mean, this is a simple logical interpretation what I've come to. Because if a product is not telling a story to the user of the product, it doesn't really make sense for him to come back. So stories are always engaging. So if the product tells you what you're doing, what you're going to do by using this product, what you're going to achieve basically after you have used this product, then it makes more sense him to come back and probably check out more than say one time. So if product, so just going back, if product's a story, so like game is story, game is product, the products are story. And if if stories, products are stories, then product managers are basically storytellers, just like a movie wherein you can consider the story is the core of, wherein it's the core of the success or the failure of the movie. So a storyteller, whenever he's trying to write the story, he has to consider multiple facets of how he's going to market it, who is his audiences, who is his engagement. He has to design it for everybody if he wants to, like it's a family drama or whatever it is. Then he has to find a good producer, like basically what an organization is, if you correlate with a product. Then if you say a good core story, which is a good product. So a good product has to be good at its core. And then there are other facets like director. So I'm putting this into a zone wherein a story or a film, you can relate it with the product. If you consider a director, it's good as a project manager basically, who looks after the entire development of the product and does whatever is needed to get it delivered on time. Then there is competitive analysis, wherein a storyteller also has to think about this, because there have been stories in the past, there are been stories created in the present, and there will be stories created in the future. So he has to take into account whom he's competing with, what others are doing, and then there is the engagement analysis. So you can basically breaking the monotony. So if you look overall at this picture, a product manager more or less does the same job with his product basically. Moving on, so what basically products, where do products lack? So products, I mean, games and products. So if you consider a game, it has a player, it has actions which the player basically completes based on the rules set in the game. Then there is performance, that which tell you what you have done. Basically it gives you the result of the actions that you did in the game. And then there is goals, which basically tells you your success. And then there are pressures built into it, like skills and time. So if you are if you are highly skilled, you probably achieve the goal in lesser amount of time than what others can do. Whereas in a product, so what basically product is missing right now, if you consider it compare it with games, is basically a user. Then there's action. There are no, I mean, most of the, I would say there are no set rules. I mean, if you compare it with the game, there are no set rules wherein how a product can be used, or it can be used. Sorry. Then there is goals, wherein basically the product doesn't tell you what is the goal. So it has to be explicitly told to the user wherein what he can achieve after using this product, because that makes more sense and keeps him hooked. Then there is this skill and time. So there is no pressure bound. So if a user doesn't, I mean, if you want a user to come back, there has to be some pressure or a tracking point wherein he comes back and engages with the product. And then there is the performance. So if somebody is using your product, you have to tell him how his performance is. So according to me, most of the products lack this feedback. And so what if the product, what if we apply these core game elements, what we call game design elements, or storytelling elements to a product? So it obviously makes the product more interesting and engaging. So again, coming back to engagement, I would say that engagement is again going to help the core interaction of the product. And if you consider gamification, it's more or less a simple rule and mechanics to improve your site performance if you consider a product. And it basically adds competitive and challenge-based aspects to your content or product, whatever you're doing. I mean, if you want to capitalize on gamification and try to create a holistic gamification approach, including the intrinsic and extrinsic factors to promote your product, you have to basically think of capitalizing on the fact that people love being recognized and being rewarded for their accomplishments. So if you can provide users with a satisfying way to say help them establish their unique social identity or share it and try to make it more engaging for them, then you are bound to get more users for your product. Talking about the engagement, I mean, according to me, we can, as a product manager, you can use the 8 core principles of game, which you can think of basically while doing a product manager's role or developing a product or maintaining and taking the product ahead. So the first one is know your target audience. So basically, design principles have been divided into 4 main personality traits, which basically are killers, achievers, socialites, and explorers. So killers are basically the users who are focused more on winning. So it's like I win, you lose. This is the category or trait of the person who can be termed or coined under killer. So whenever you're designing a product, so it's not compulsory that every individual will show only a single trait out of these 4, but it's more or less that one of the trait is more predominated in the user. So it can be a killer, achiever, explorer, or a socialite. For achiever, it's basically I win. It doesn't matter to him who loses, but he has achieved his goal and he is very much happy with himself and he's in pursuit of his excellence. Then there is the third type of trait, that is socialites, which is basically focusing more on being in the limelight or being with people, talking to them. So like there were people whom I know who used to play Farmville. So basically just for the sake that even my friends in college or my neighbors play, that's why I'm here. They were not really kicked on by the game, but they were just here so that tomorrow if there is a conversation in the group when they're talking, it should not be that I don't know about it. So these are the people who are more are like that, who are not necessarily kicked by the game, but they're there to more enjoy and talk and meet new people and socialize with them. And the last one is the explorers. So explorers are basically people who normally don't follow rules. So they want to basically do whatever they want. So in a car game, basically, there have been a lot of people do like they move away from the track, they go off-road and try to find whatever is there, like a house or a buffalo, and they try to hit that buffalo and they get that happiness or something like that. So these are kind of the explorers. So whenever you're trying to design a product, according to me, this is kind of one of the principles that you should think of, because there are different user traits, and if you try to at least accommodate features which appeal to different types of users, there are higher chances that the number of users for your product will increase, because everyone is trying to get whatever he likes. So that can be one of the features. Second, moving on to the second feature, is basically easy to onboard and harder to master. So um, so getting better and reaching mastery is what people look for. So these actions can be gamified. That's what I can say. So if you have come across this product or site called Code Academy, it's a great example of it, because the intrinsic value of going to that site is I want to code. And the second part is, whenever you type in a code, they give you an immediate result. So that's a very good point for a beginner. I want to be welcomed in a very nice manner, and be told that you're on a good path, and thanks for coming, and take these points and move on. And if I've done I've taken the step 1, they give me immediate feedback and say, good job, something like that. So the games that are engaging and successful basically allow a user to onboard quickly. So they basically don't give away points and badges upfront, but they make the process more simpler to onboard. So it's not all about points and badges. So if you enroll and say get 100 points just for doing nothing, it actually makes no sense. But if you engage with the system and then try to achieve something, and you get a small bonus for it, then it makes more sense to you, because you are into the system and probably you have done something, and then for that activity you have got some point. But there have been of late there have been a lot of instances wherein the websites or products, they just want to say complete a task. So they have a survey form, or they want to improve your profile. So they just ask you to say share on a Facebook or a LinkedIn or say Twitter and get 100 points and 100 points, and just try to get more information out of you, which actually makes no sense, right? Because nowadays people have become more conscious, and then they don't want to shell out their personal information. But these actions don't necessarily trigger the user to fill up his information, because he's not really keen to do that. So if you are asking him for doing that, then there are chances that it becomes a turn off for the user, and then there are higher chances that probabilities that the user may quit the product or the system altogether, which basically a product manager doesn't want to happen. So I can just, this is my personal experience. I can give you an example wherein, say for example, Microsoft Excel, MS Excel. So it's like a vast and very complicated product, and there is no easy onboarding for it. So if you really are like a first-time user to MS Excel, there is no real like a simple way to understand it quickly, like all the complicated formulas, how you can duplicate the cells, and how is it like to calculate it faster, how is it quicker to add, multiply, divide, whatever stuff, and do functions and everything. So it's according to me, it's like a very complicated product for a first-time user. Even for the, I would say even for the intermediate users who are using it regularly, I don't think they know each and every function. So it's like a very complicated product, and there should be a way wherein they make the process more easy and easily acceptable and easily onboardable. So basically, they're asking too much from a user at the first go. So the user basically needs to understand what he's gaining out of the product. So if I'm not able to relate to the product, he won't be coming back basically. And what skills and experiences he can develop, that is what actually triggers him. So what all he needs to do to master this product, or what he can expect out of this time spent on to make a decision on whether he should come back and engage with the product, is very critical. So basically for the first time user, because it's like a make or break point. If you charm him, if you make his life easier at that point of a time, he is bound to come back to the product. So that's what most of the good games do. They whenever you are trying to get into a game, they give you simple levels wherein you so for example, if you play say tennis on Xbox, you start with a very beginner level wherein they try to give you very simple simple actions wherein there is wherein the opponent is not that tough, obviously programmed, and then you start winning and hitting a couple of shots, and then you get that confidence. So that is very important to get the user to come back to your sorry to your product. And at the same time, it should not be very easy to master, because if you allow the user to say complete or explore the product at the first go, it's the same it's the reverse psychology. I explored the entire product at the first go, and then there is nothing left, and why should I come back? So that is very dangerous again. So there have to be if it's a complicated product, the product should have a smooth onboarding basically, and the experience, and then guide the user through the story of the product in a structured form, basically till he reaches the mastery. So here you can add gamification elements to keep the user engaged. Otherwise, he might lose interest to get and might get lost in the whole process. So, for example, Adobe has of late started this same kind of a onboarding gamification mechanism, wherein, so again, the core urge is to learn Photoshop, say for example, and then you come onto that product, and then they are trying to lure you and make your life more easier by trying to make you understand how the product is used, and then giving you small achievements and rewards for whatever you've done. And so there can be a step further wherein whatever points and badges you have achieved here, maybe you can upgrade to a higher version, or say with a discount or something. So there can be schemes which can be built around these gamification or points elements if you have the intrinsic or the good product at the heart. So that is what Adobe is trying to do, and they have restructured the entire onboarding process and have added the game layer on top of the product, so that it assures that the progress and the feedback is given to the user, and in turn he is motivated. So that is again very important to get the user hooked onto your system. Then the next point is breaking the monotony, as I mentioned earlier. So basically there are, I mean, the user has to explore your product. There has to be, the product should not be going at the same pace. So if there is no newness to the product, if you are not providing, say, new content for a new site, or if you're not allowing the users to explore the other areas of your product, and the product is going at the same pace, and he has to come back and do the same actions again and again, then it doesn't really make sense for him to use this product, or probably it becomes more kind of a boredom if the product is again not like a daily product, like a Tally or something, wherein he's using it day in, day out, and that's his job. So the product has to be more charming, and it has to be more like exploring and game-like, and hence applying the design principles there to take the user by surprise makes more sense, because similarly a product should keep on surprising the user, and that's what basically breaks the monotony of the product and the user behavior basically. So he keeps on guessing what's coming next, and then he's kind of prepared and likes whatever surprises that he gets and everything else. So give the user something to explore and let him keep say coming back. So to stress on that point, I would say that the flow of the game is very important. So if the design or the game or the product has a flow, so it keeps the user say from getting bored and from getting too anxious. So that is the flow wherein the user actually interacts more with the product or game. So basically, so the engagement, the zone or the flow leads to the motivation, and in order to be in that zone, the user needs to enjoy it. So that's what gets the loop into the cycle, basically. Fourth point is basically to design for 3 stages of user life cycle. So every product has 3 types of or 3 stages of the user life cycle. One is the newbies who are new to the product and they need a good onboarding. Then there are intermediate levels wherein people have come to your product earlier and they are starting to engage with the product. So it's kind of a habit building wherein you want the user to say perform X number of actions on your site and he's doing that and he's coming back. That is the intermediate level, and then there is the pro level wherein he's the master. He's been coming to your site for say ages or very frequently, and he is basically trying to master the system and say become one of the brand ambassadors, you can say so. So there are basically tipping points at all these stages, wherein for the first onboarding, as I said in the earlier point, if the onboarding is not proper, there are higher chances that the user will fall off at this point. So the good games basically increases the stages or gives the excitement step by step. So for a newbie, it is a smooth onboarding wherein you give him some goodies. For the next intermediate level, it's more of a habit, and then for the mastery, it's more of I'm the king of that sort of thing. So I mean, just to give you an example, I can say that say Khan Academy. It's again a good example here because it has been designed for 3 stages, wherein for a newbie, it's like a smooth onboarding when you see videos, you get some, so you get the simplest of the sums or whatever topic you are doing, simplest of the questions, and then you try to solve it, and then they try to increase the levels of it. So that is for the newbies. So they give you some badges, and they have created the whole galaxy system into it, when they give you different kinds of planets and sun and moon and earth and everything, all sorts of badges and achievements. For the intermediate, it's they again get the users, once they get the users hooked onto the system of studying, then there is the basically the user keeps coming back, because the intrinsic motivation here is to study. And though they are saying that I mean, it can be Khan Academy may be ahead because of the gamification elements, I beg to differ here, because the core element of the product or Khan Academy is the simplicity of the product basically. So it's not even more about education, but it's more of a simplified education, wherein if you have gone Khan Academy, most of their videos, I would say like 95% of the videos are simplified into their concept. So it is like very easy for even a person who is trying to cope with the topic to understand and then go back to it, reiterate, and watch the video all over again and again till he gets it right. So that is the core value of the product, and on top of this sits a superficial layer, or you can say an engaging layer of gamification, which makes it more interesting, because then you have like the stuff or the power or the access, the SAPS part of it, wherein the user can show it off and try to socialize and then try to spread the word. And then there are pros, which is basically even I and you can, if you know the topic and if you can make it more simpler, and you can upload the videos and make it more simpler, or you can be on their panel and start, if they feel that you're good enough, you can be on their panel and start putting out videos. So that can be the mastery level, wherein you have, say, learned the topics through their system, and then you reached a certain level wherein you yourself found out a way to make things more simpler, and then you become the pro and the champ of the product. And basically, so it for the newbies, onboarding and welcome and goal and progress and achievable rewards is what they're looking for. It makes them more charming. Sorry. And as he's a beginner, or the user is beginner to the system, he needs to be onboarded smoothly and lure the player into the beginner level. For the regulars, you have to keep the content fresh that you have on the site or the product, and give them more challenges and increase the difficulty level step by step. Again, the content is what the crux of the product is. So whatever gamification layer you apply, you have to make sure that the content that you're putting out, the product that you're putting out, makes more sense and makes more meaningful relation to what the user is doing. And for the pros, it's more of the enthusiasm, and they need more exclusivity and recognition. So I would put it rather in a different way. They are like the brand ambassadors of your product and the best source to spread the word of mouth for free. As they are passionate about using your product, they need to be given that exclusivity and the things that are not available for the other users. So for example, like a frequent flyer mile card, when you say move up the levels, they have a special queue, or for business travelers basically, they have a special queue wherein you can just skip the queue and you can enter and sit on the, say, swanky seats in the plane and then see the other passengers going back to the economy class. So that's kind of a feeling of status for you. And then there is on the guy sitting in the economy class, it's more or less for him to be in that seat of the business class, wherein he feels that he has mastered the game, or he has got that like recognition, or he has satisfied his intrinsic needs with the extrinsic layer on it. So moving on to the next point, it's more of the fifth point is to design for personal and social needs. So building fun in the core activity loop is what is very important, because if the activity or the core is not really fun or pleasure or satisfying, then even if you add the top layer to it of gamification, it doesn't really engage the user. It can engage him for a bit, but not for a longer run. It can be a temporary way out or a solution to what you are actually asking him to do. Yeah. So every game actually excites. So whenever you're doing or designing for a personal and social needs, what games actually do is actually excites the player's intrinsic desire, which keeps the user hooked onto the game. So on top of the intrinsic motivation, there is then the extrinsic layer of social, which sits on top of it. So if you have, say, if you are playing, say, a fighting game or say a Call of Duty game, the core of it is some people actually like to play those games, but if that genre of games, and then there are people who like to talk about it and try to socialize with people on those fronts. So if you're designing for the personal needs, then it's more of the intrinsic motivation that triggers in. So whenever you're designing a product, the core has to be first made strong. So first you have to decide on the intrinsic levels of the interaction or that excites the user for using your product. And then whenever he is trying to engage and you feel that there is slight drop in his engagement, or he might get bored after a certain point of time, that's when you should kick in the gamification elements to keep him more engaged and hooked onto the system. So sorry. Moving on to the next point, that is feedback and the progressive goal. So it's more about positive emotions, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments. So giving a feedback to a user, that's what the game does. Games tell the user where he's in the story and what he's going to achieve on the way to reach the goals. That becomes a very powerful tool to keep the players attached to the game. Similarly, a lot of products don't really give the desired feedback, explicitly mentioning that, say, bingo, you got a blue badge or something like that, what gamification does. So whenever you're designing a product, it's very important to give you that progression and that feedback of your progress of your path to say achieving the goals. So even in like games, they give you the scores for your achievement. So you hit a ball and it reaches the boundary, then you have a score attached to it. So it's a feedback that you hit a good shot and you reached a boundary or a sixer and you got good marks and points and scores for that. Similarly, uh, uh, the products should communicate and engage with the combination of badges, rewards, leaderboards, points, and then they should promote the motivational mechanics, wherein it's more of like the random rewards that you get whenever you are engaging with the system. So for example, there is a concept in psychology which says one-armed bandit. So the essence of this is that if you give random sizable rewards for the users, say for example like a slot machine, you will get an addictive behavior pattern for the user because of the unsurety in the product or unsurety in the reward. It makes the product more exciting. So you never know what's coming next. You might win at this instant, or you might win at like instances 10th instance after this. So that is what actually keeps the user engaged from a psychological point of view. And then when you attach like a meaning to the product of why he is here and what he can achieve out of this product, then that again makes more sense to him to come back and use it again. And then it kinds of builds a relationship between the user and the product. That relationship again can go back to good word of mouth or a brand ambassador when he found good experience with the product, and then he endorses it to a lot more people. And then the last part is the accomplishments, wherein you set some goals for the users to achieve. Again, there has to be a clear path to mastery that should be mentioned, and with the elements of surprise, obviously. But the goal has to be fixed. So, for example, if you are playing any games, say like Call of Duty, as I earlier mentioned, you already know that you have to say kill the enemy and win the battle. So that is the goal that you already know. But on the way, there are levels, and then there are challenges that are put into the game to make it more exciting. Again, the core is about playing the game. It's not about the elements. The elements kick in wherein, say for example, you just had to cross this, or say in a racing game, you are taking that turn, right? Taking a turn in an NFS game at a high speed is very is like what people want to master it. So the end goal is to win and say get points after say crossing 10 kilometers in the race or something. But the more kick that you get is when you take that turn in a smooth manner and move on in the race. That is what is more like more of an accomplishment. And then you kick in the gamification elements of say points and badges, and then you get to the goal, and then you win, and then the rest of the design element and the superficial layer part comes into the picture. The seventh principle is design for engagement and the flow. So basically, if you can see this graph wherein this is the flow which I was earlier talking about. It's more of a zone wherein you get into. It's just between the anxiety and boredom. And as you increase the challenges, the skills basically have to increase. That's what the desired output of this whole flow is. So whenever a person is interacting with a product, it is desired that he should master the product. But on the way, he should be given more challenges and try to develop his skills to reach that goal. And if you're increasing skills, then obviously the challenges that you put into have to be really figured out in a good manner. Because again, if it's easy, it again doesn't make any sense to create challenges which can be easily achieved. So it can be it is as good as like an easy onboarding process if the challenges are not meant to be that tough or excites the user. So just put or just breaking down on the flow chart, you can see that these are the human temperaments when you are involved in an activity or you are playing a game or whatever it is. It's either you are anxious, then you have controlled behavior, you are worried about something, you are in that boredom zone, you are in the relaxation zone, or then you are in the flow. So that is what we are targeting at. We have to basically think of all the human temperaments that he can deal with when he is engaging with our products, and then try to design the flow which will keep him engaged into the product and keep him coming back. And last but not the least is the intrinsic versus the extrinsic motivations. So this is again very important. Again, as I said earlier, only intrinsic motivations, only extrinsic motivations won't excite the user. It is more about the combination and the amalgamation of the intrinsic as well as extrinsic motivations. So gamification, if you consider it in a web strategy, it's basically a strategy. So gamification, if you want to really pursue it should not be just an option or just like a one-time activity. You should be planning out all the moves, thinking about how your users are going to react, and always keep your end goals in sight when employing a gamification strategy. So the first thing to consider before implementing a gamification or a gamification strategy for your product or a site is to basically gain the understanding of what all points can be gamified. So what are intrinsic motivations for the users to use the product, whereas what are the extrinsic motivations? So you, if somebody is actually indulging in an activity on your product and you try to put in some badges or pop-ups in between saying you have done this, you have done that, it can become an irritating at some point of the time. So you have to really think through the process. Then there has to be some like the feedback mechanism which triggers his need for getting that motivation basically in the flow area, wherein he decides whether this site or this product is really going to benefit me, and then is it giving me the right feedback, am I progressing in the product, and I'm reaching my goal. Then your focus basically on the few key behaviors that you want to encourage. So it can be a certain level or a certain feature in your product that is not really working well. So that might be your problematic area. But again, every problem area has an intrinsic motivation to it. And if you really try to think through it and then try to build the gamification layer on top of it, it can make more sense to the user, and it can be a good long-term strategy. Again, as they say, the details, devil's in the details. So whenever you're designing the strategy, it should not be that you're out of the context. So you're trying to gamify intrinsic motivation, but the intrinsic, the goal of the intrinsic motivation and whatever you're applying on it, the gamification elements don't really match. So for example, you're playing a game of say Max Payne or something, and then you suddenly receive say a badge for a guitar or something, which doesn't really make sense to the user, and then he just, I mean, it's like, what do you want the badge here? So it can be a turn off, and it should be really thought of. The next point which I would like to make before ending this is the gamification is like more of a support system. So it should not be taken lightly. It requires extensive support to keep on developing new levels and badges and think through what all engagement points and interaction points can be gamified. or thought of, and then if you put a reward system in place, you should be ready to add more badges and levels and more credentials to the system and try to make it better day in, day out. Last but not least, think about the people think about the people who are going to use your product. So people will basically spread the word, and it will definitely make a longer impact on what you are doing. So just before I close down on this topic, it's basically gamification is it's good, but it has to be applied in a sustained sustained manner and with a sustained effort in order to solve a problem, and make it more of a strategy rather than just a buzzword or just a nice thing to have. And yeah, so it's basically like I mean, if you really think of it in a gambling scenario, that is the reason why gambling is more challenging and addictive, because it gives both. It gives you an intrinsic kick and as well as an extrinsic kick of getting the money and the rewards, and it's basically challenges, and in order to be engaging and interesting, your product has to give out those challenges and require certain objectives to be achieved and overcome, and which will keep the user coming back with the application of gamification elements. So that's it. I hope I really gave you, I mean, at least a new perspective or my take on what is gamification. Again, as I mentioned, I'm not a pro into this. I've just tried to show what I've thought of this topic and how I've tried to use it, and I'm definitely open to any kind of discussions and what are questions and answers that you have. So yeah, that's it.